again to Hard Knock Crypto. We're super excited that you guys are all here joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about treasuries and how they're tied to crypto. We're going to be talking a little about adoption. We're going to touch on a bunch of things, so we look forward to spending time with you. Andrew, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hey, man. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm good. I've been good. I'm looking forward to continuing to be good. I was traveling. Last time you all saw me, I was sitting in a hotel. Glad to be back in my brick-lined office
That is
here.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
awesome.
thank you. I appreciate that. We're laying down some bricks over here like the Knicks
Yes.
were the other day, but they finally turned it around. Yeah, they
Do
were
you follow
terrible.
that? You follow basketball?
Bro, I've been a Knicks fan since I was 9 years old. It's
Seriously?
probably it's probably one of the most painful relationships of my life.
Well, I mean,
And
it's really amazing. This is just a side note. I'm a huge NBA guy. I have been since I was, again, younger than you. I still like one of my earliest memories is the Bulls against the Lakers in the finals in like 91. And
okay,
I think it's amazing. The Knicks celebrated winning round two.
yeah,
Winning round two like it was a championship. People were crying
yes.
in the garden, and it was
Oh,
wild.
well, you got to realize though. I mean, just to kind of put it in context, it's the Celtics. Like
Yeah, that's
the
true.
Knicks Celtics rivalry is kind of like some other rivalry, right? For
Sure.
us, if there's any team that we dislike more. I don't think there is another team that we dislike more as a Knicks fan, right? Than the
Right.
Celtics,
Sure.
right? And so,
It was a good win.
uh,
It was a
ma-
good win.
yeah, yeah. Well, we should have had game one of that Indiana game if
Yes,
we
it was
just made a
wild.
free throw.
It
If we
was
just made a
wild.
free throw, yeah.
Mhm.
And so, anyway, almost could have been nightmarish, but we
There's still
did
hope.
get
It's
the
2-1.
always. And
Yeah.
after just quickly after the last game that we won in Indiana, all the Knicks fans in the crowd over there were yelling Knicks in six, which is
Knicks in
hilarious.
6. Yeah.
We're down,
Right.
right?
But I mean, it's 3 more.
Right. One game
It's
two.
doable. It's
Yeah,
doable.
doable. Anyway, yeah, that's the brick segment of the game.
Yes.
We should add that to
I love
this
it. What's the
to our
brick segment?
episodes.
I like it.
Maybe the brick statement is like something terrible, like somebody just like laid a brick, like who is doing something terrible,
Done. Who's laying the brick?
right? Can we do laying the
I
brick?
like it.
Who's laying the brick? So
Okay.
anyway, yeah. So anyway, all right, cool. So what are we touching on today, Andrew?
We're looking at a few things. One of the things I always like to talk about what's been in the news, and one of the things that a lot of people are talking about are U.S. Treasuries and how they're connected, how they're connected with Bitcoin. I think how they're also connected with money and debt. If you've been around here long enough, you know that like the question, what is money, is huge, but also how's that correlated to the US dollar as a world reserve currency. And so this got me thinking about who holds the majority of our debt. We're currently at $36 trillion in debt. I think almost 37, maybe it is at 37, but it's projected. I was looking, the U.S. debt by 2035 is projected to be at roughly like $54 trillion because we could
That's
just keep adding
crazy,
and adding. And
crazy.
even like we're super proud of Doge, right? And how they were cutting things out. And now there's this big, beautiful bill. I don't know if you've looked at that Trump is pushing through that's going to add like another 2 or 3 trillion
$3 trillion,
dollars.
right, or something like that. It's gonna take us to like $30 trillion.
And I think the lesson is like when it's Democrats running stuff, or like those stupid Democrats, can you believe that they're doing this? They're adding the money. And then the Republicans roll in and they talk about cutting things and how we're going to clean it up, and then they just do the same thing. So I think Lenny, they're going to keep printing money and
I
adding onto the debt.
believe. So can we take a pause there for a second, right?
Yeah.
And we just talk a little bit about when you say treasuries and what are we talking about, right? For those
Yeah.
who might not be clear on it.
Yeah.
Before we jump into the deep end of that pool, right? If you want to, we could just talk about what we mean by that, right? So let's just look at it from the U.S. perspective.
Sure.
The U.S. government, they float these, these debt instruments, right? And like T bills and they sell bonds and things like that that people can invest in.
Right.
And the government basically says, we will turn around and we will pay you interest on this, right? Whatever your
Correct.
return is. Let's say
Right.
5%, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how the US government turns around and raises capital so they can do what they need to do,
In
right? So
fact,
basically, it's
yes.
people lending money to the government.
Right. And in fact, out of the 36, $37 trillion of debt that we have, I just looked at this. Roughly 28 trillion of that is in these treasury bonds. And they're made up of 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And in
Right,
a traditional stock portfolio, you're like a traditional portfolio that you have, uh, that is made up of stocks and bonds. And bonds are supposed to be very little return, but the backbone of the economy. Like the US
right,
is not going to default on the bond market. That would be catastrophic. And it's
right,
interesting to see that these treasuries keep going up. They were a few percent, like especially 2020. They were super low because we were lending out money super low. And so that reflected in the bond market. Now we're lending out money higher, same in the bond market. But it is interesting to see, and we'll get into this a little more, but it's interesting to see that even in 2025, I would say at the beginning of this year, Bitcoin is becoming more of a safe haven than your traditional T bills, which is really interesting. But before we get into that, I want to ask you,
yes.
you're Mr. Top
Uh-oh.
10.
Yes.
You like a good top
I get to
10?
play today.
You remember
Yes, I
David
do. You know
Letterman's
that.
top 10?
Yes.
Oh,
That's how
man.
old I am.
That is a throwback. Just
Yeah, man.
hit me. That was my
Well,
favorite part of the show,
twi-
David Letterman's top 10.
outside. However, I will say that when you earlier mentioned that your earliest memory of basketball
I was
was
wondering
when
about
the
that.
Bulls when the Bulls played the Lakers in
91.
1991. I
I
was
was 6.
21 years old,
Hey,
having a beer,
that
watching
that
the game, where
that's
you were
why
still
this
kind of like,
show this
"Eh."
show is a wide
Yeah.
audience, a wide age group.
Sorry.
We need to get
I
somebody
was,
that's
yeah.
like a
That's what
Gen
about.
Z person that would really even us out, that would talk about Michael Jordan who? I don't who is that? That's what they would
Oh
say.
my
Yeah.
gosh, that would really hurt my feelings if that happened. You know what I mean?
I
Like
know,
that would
right?
be like, oh gosh. Okay.
Sure.
Anyway, back to it. I get to do a top
So
10 today.
so top 10. I want to ask you
Yes.
which countries are the top 10 holders of the US debt? What's
Okay. So and
number
so
1?
so to understand this, what we're saying is the US floated, right? This out there and then countries were saying, "Hey, we're going to go ahead and we're going to buy it and we're going to then lend you this money," right?
Right.
Is what we're talking about. So there are countries out there that the United States is indebted to for a certain amount.
Correct.
Uh, so I will say China is on that list.
China is on that list. They're number 3. I think for years China's been the boogeyman for America, and all I ever heard for a long time was that China holds our debt. They hold the most, but they're
Right.
actually number 3.
Which is crazy to me
Yeah.
that they're number 3 because I would think that now, now after that, this gets hard.
Mhm.
However, I used to hear stories of like Russian oligarchs buying like $30 million apartments in New York City. Maybe that's just a high number. I just made
Wow.
that up, but some crazy numbers, and that they would sit there empty. So If nothing changed, I'm going to say Russia.
Russia. Russia is not on the list.
What are we doing? Top 20?
Top
I'm
10.
sorry.
Top 10.
Darn. I think
If
I
you
might be
if
in the.
you could come up
Sorry,
with,
that's right.
let's try
Okay.
for two more.
Okay, two more. Okay. I'm going to say the UK owns
UK.
part of
UK is number 2, actually.
Damn, okay.
Right in at almost
I'm gonna.
$800 billion worth of treasuries.
That's nuts, honestly. All right, I'm just gonna go through the top 5 countries that we did before,
Yeah.
right?
According to
And
GDP.
yeah, I get. Wait, do I get 2 more
Sure.
like wrong answers? Okay,
Sure.
fine. I think Germany was on the list,
Germany is
on
not
our
a
list.
top 10.
Wah, wah.
Wah, wah.
Okay, the only other, yeah, exactly. The only
One more
other one
strike.
I remember, from the top 5 was Japan.
Japan. Japan. Japan. Japan is number 1. Congratulations. Japan holds about 1.1 ish, $1.2 trillion worth of our treasuries.
That's so crazy. These are all countries now that I think we would not normally hear about being spoken of, right? And that's a huge I don't want to say an issue, but it's something for us to keep an eye on, right?
Yeah.
Um, well, the top 5 then I'll roll out the top 5 and say India because I always pick India on these lists for something.
India is actually number 9.
Oh,
So
they
I
made the
would
top
say
10.
here's the top 10 is Japan, followed by the
Yes.
UK, China, Canada,
Whoa.
Belgium, Ireland, France, Taiwan, India, and Brazil. Interesting, huh?
Eh, That's an interesting list.
It really
That
is.
is a real interest. Yeah, that's kind of you're first of all, I'm shocked that Canada has owns that much.
Yeah.
I guess I shouldn't be, but I feel like I am somewhere deep inside. I'm torn by that. I don't know
So
how I should feel
if
about
we
that.
expanded that out into a top 20, this may be different because I have a couple different lists.
Okay.
In this one, India is listed as number 14, and then Brazil, Norway is a big holder, Saudi, South Korea, UAE, Germany, and then the 21st, according to at RR2 Capital, according to them, the 21st
Yeah.
largest holder of US Treasuries is Tether, the stablecoin, USDT.
Huh. That where did they come from, huh?
Where do they come from? I think we've talked about them before.
Man, we have. In fact, we talked about them. I don't know if it was the last episode or the episode before that where we talked about how they were just buying up all this gold,
Right.
right? And again, not to kind of expose anyone, but their gold is in Switzerland. No,
There you
just
go.
kidding. There you go. Just let you know. But yeah, that's it. So this, the whole question of is this crypto thing a real thing? Well, Tether apparently
Yeah.
is moving in on being a real thing, man. It's on the list, right? So
I heard a podcast with the CEO of Tether, and he was talking about just buying treasuries, taking the 3-4% at the time, and just
right,
with that interest, buying Bitcoin and just
that's
continuing to do that. I mean, what a model, right? And
that is a crazy model,
it's basically what MicroStrategy and all these others and 21 Capital, they're taking out debt to do it. But Tether is like, all we have to do is take our 4% and buy Bitcoin and put it in our treasury and just keep doing
right?
that. And if you have enough
Which
capital, it works.
eh, absolutely, absolutely. And so, I listen. I would say that this is the mindset for really in terms of long-term generational wealth building, right? This is really a mindset. It's a
Mm,
shift that I think
mm,
people need to think about, and break away from this idea of that only big companies can do things like that. You could do things in a smaller scale.
sure.
You could work it out, right? We just need to kind of just adjust to it. But that to me is amazing. amazing that this is we're living in a new world of investment, right?
Right.
Right? An asset like no other has come on the scene,
Yeah.
and now people are saying, "Hey, they're using old strategies." By the way, it's just
Yeah.
they're using an asset that um, we haven't seen anything like it before. So anyway, I'm
I
glad that I got the top three. By the way,
It is pretty good. I think it'll be interesting if you want to. We're not going to do it on here, but if you
right?
want to do a deep dive into macroeconomics of the world, check out Bank of Japan and what is happening. Japan has been kicking the can down the road longer than we have. They've artificially kept interest rates low, and all of a sudden, their own treasuries are creeping up. In fact, they give out a 40-year treasury,
Wow.
and it's gone parabolic for Japan. I think it's at like 4%, where it used to be like 2%, 1%. And the fact that they're the largest holder of our treasuries is not a great sign. And this is not
Yeah.
a doom and gloom and run for the hills, but it is interesting when the backbone of the economic world has been US treasuries for the past X amount of years. Now, if you think about, would you rather get, like, let me ask you this question. Would you rather get
Sure.
5% yearly? Let's say hypothetically you have $1 million. You could lock in 5%, which is 50,000 bucks a year,
Yep.
or you could buy 10 Bitcoin. What do you do?
Uh, no doubt in my mind, I'm buying the 10 Bitcoin.
Right. Obviously,
No
this is
doubt.
like, it would be interesting. Maybe somebody should do this, but to
Right.
ask that question to common people on the street, I mean, out of 10, how many do you think would say the same answer as you?
Oh, if we did that 2 years ago, I think 10 out of 10 would have said, I'll take the 5%.
Yeah, I think at least 9
I,
out of
I
10 probably.
9 out of 10. I
Sure.
think today we might get 4 out of 10 will say Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. 3, 4.
Right. I think we're getting close to where we're going to be 50%. We'll turn around and say, oh man, I'll take the Bitcoin for sure. Right. And so, especially today, because $50,000 gets you like, how far does that even get you in life
That's true.
anymore?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like just with inflation and things like that, 50,000 like it's nothing anymore.
that's
You
true.
can't. Right? It's sad, but if someone
It
makes
is
fifty
sad.
thousand dollars a year, you're like, how do you survive? You can't support a family on 50K a year.
Yeah. If you're single,
So
it'd
it's
probably be
hard.
okay. I like my family's big into watching Survivor, the TV show. My
Yeah.
kids love it. They think it's
Right.
awesome. But they've been doing that show since 2000. We were just talking about it yesterday. And in the year 2000, the prize money was $1 million. And in the year 2025, the prize money still $1 million. And so I checked, and in 2025, $1 million equates to, in 20 or in the year 2000, $1.8 million. So it has lost that much of its value.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
That's crazy.
Almost doubled.
That that's right.
And,
That's what
and
I'm saying. So $50,000, like me in New York, forget it. Man, you're gonna be homeless in New York.
the problem though
50K.
with
Seriously.
Bitcoin is, how do you get, like, treasuries would give you 50 grand a year, and you get it twice a
Right.
year with treasuries. If you don't
Right.
sell any Bitcoin, what do you get?
So that would be an interesting next episode, right? One of our
I think
future
you're right.
episodes.
I
Like,
think you're right.
right.
I would love to look
Right.
at,
Like
because
how do we do that?
there's some companies and some ETFs that are giving yield on Bitcoin, and that'll be interesting to dive into at another time.
For sure. So we're gonna spend an episode maybe just talking on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But just very quickly, it would be terrible if we did not quickly just mention that Bitcoin went up to like $111,000 and then
Mm-hmm.
has come back down. So yes,
Mm-hmm.
here we go. We're like, and everybody was like, oh. but here we are. We've kind of hit it. I think now it's kind of stabilized a little bit at probably about 107, 108 now, and that's kind of where we're at right today. So I think it would be terrible if we didn't talk about that. But I do want to say I shared a video with you yesterday
Yeah.
of an influencer out there who has a great podcast. Her name is Natalie Brunell. If anybody has not seen it, go ahead and follow her. She's really great. But where she went to, what's the name of the restaurant? Steak
Steak
and
and
Shake.
shake. Steak and shake.
Steak and Shake. Right. So if you're from the Northeast, you probably don't know what it is. But if you kind of, I just went to Missouri and there was Steak and Shake around the corner, and she bought a meal using Bitcoin, and it was on the menu. Like she was going through pay cash, pay credit card, pay using crypto, like using Bitcoin, which I thought was, oh, we've arrived. The
Mm.
Steak and Shake is taking Bitcoin. Right? I think we're going to share the video. I don't know if we're going to share it here or going to provide a
Sure.
link if
Sure.
anybody's curious about it. But in my opinion, that's a big deal
Mm.
that it's happening in the United States now that you can
Sure.
buy things using Bitcoin,
Right.
right? So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, at a one point, Tesla was accepting Bitcoin for Teslas, and that was years ago.
Right.
I know other companies have accepted it. My thing is this, though, Lenny. If you're gonna go to what's your grocery store of choice over in your area, neck of the woods, the East
It
Coast?
yeah, like Trader Joe's, ShopRite,
Okay,
one of those places.
let's say you're gonna
Yeah.
roll into ShopRite, and
Yes.
you just are pumped that they are accepting uh, chunks of gold for your groceries, and you're buying your
Awesome.
boys, you're buying all your groceries, and it equates to whatever, like $300 for the trip, and you
Right.
chunk out a piece of gold.
Right.
That's to me the same as Bitcoin. I don't want to pay in Bitcoin because I don't want to spend my Bitcoin. I'll
All
just
right.
spend fiat. Like I don't want to chunk out gold in the same way I don't want to chunk out Bitcoin. I don't care. It's the same to me.
Yeah. You're holding it, right? Is what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
We're still in the world of holding, right? So buying Bitcoin, long-term investment, right? Store of value, and I'm not doing anything with it, right? I'm not spending it, I'm not giving it away, I'm not doing anything. And I
Right.
totally get that, right? I totally get that that's the season and that's where we are. But I was just kind of jokingly speaking to a colleague and I said, "Wouldn't it be great if I can get a portion of my salary in Bitcoin?"
Right. I remember you
Right?
saying that.
Yeah, and the day that where companies start giving you the option and say, "Listen, you could choose how you want to receive your salary. You could choose fiat, you could choose Bitcoin. We're good with any of that."
Yeah.
Then I think that is when you're going to start seeing people say, "Okay, I could transact with Bitcoin. I can go to the
Mm,
Steak and Shake and buy a meal,"
sure.
because then it becomes a part, right, of just our everyday use, right? How far are we? I don't know how far we are with that, um, but I hope that we're not that far away. We're probably like 3 to 5 years away from something like that.
Maybe. I
Um,
don't I don't think it'll ever
mm,
be a I don't think it's a use case. I think what'll
okay.
happen first is that we deal in stable coins for everything. It's like we have
Okay.
stablecoin wallets. It's like
Right.
like I use Apple Pay in the UAE for everything. I don't take a
Right.
credit card anywhere unless for some reason it's not working. But what does Apple Pay do? It just connects to my credit card. That's all it is. It's just a different payment system. I do
Right.
think we'll have payment rails that are like USDT, and we're just using that instead. Or I'll just, instead of Venmo, it's like, oh yeah, I'll just send it to your crypto wallet. So I think there's, as a Bitcoin guy, I just, I'm not impressed with spending Bitcoin. I'd rather
Interesting.
just hold it.
I listen, I'm with you. I'm not going out there and buying a burger using my Bitcoin. I'm not
Yeah,
doing that. I just we already see though that use case is out there,
sure.
right? Like if you go to countries, they are accepting it. So I think somewhere in there that there probably is a use case. I think it will probably exist. But I totally see what you're saying as well. Just very quickly, I just want to say, hey, Ilyas out there in Missouri, man, don't go waste your Bitcoin on a steak and
Too many
shake
too many
burger. It's
burgers,
not,
too many milkshakes. Don't do it,
yeah,
man.
it's just not that good.
It's not
It's not
worth
worth
it.
spending your Bitcoin on. Right. So, anyway, but I do, the other thing that we've talked about a great deal is adoption.
Right.
And all of these things that we're talking about really leads to adoption, right? In terms of even debt instruments that are being held, right? And like Tether, um, holding treasuries, and that just adds, I think, value, right? And I think adds credibility and adds where people are saying, listen, I want to put my money into it. I want to invest in it. These, like I said, the whole video of purchasing using Bitcoin, it leads back to adoption. And we're, I think, well on our way.
Yeah.
Uh, we are way beyond where we were, like I said, even 2 years ago,
Oh, for sure.
2023, when I said, hey, is this a thing?
Yeah.
I did ask that question.
Yeah.
Is blockchain a thing in
Yeah.
2023? So adoption is on the way.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
anyway, good stuff. Good
Good
stuff.
stuff.
What else you got for me this week?
Man, nothing crazy for me. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think today
That's
these are
good.
all just important topics, and yeah, but next time around, and this is for everybody watching, we are, I think, going to be talking about how do you get some of that value out on your investment, right, on your Bitcoin. How do we turn around and if you're I think the example before we got on the call, right, on the show, I was talking about, man, Florida, and we could touch on this really quick.
Sure.
Florida has a bill that they're looking to pass that is saying that they want to make zero capital gains on crypto investments, right?
Right.
And I was like, man, that is exciting.
Mm.
Another reason to move to Florida. And what
Yeah.
did you say to me?
I said I
Huh?
feel like I saw somebody who lives in Florida say they don't have state income tax anyways, so what would it matter?
What would it matter? Right. So I think that that's probably even a good topic for us to touch on next time and say, hey, what does that? Well, does it matter? Does it not matter? What
Sure.
does it look like? And that's the real question about investing. Right
Yeah.
now, I've made my hopefully 10-15%, even more.
Yeah.
Now what? What am I going to do with all of that? Right. And how do
Right.
I kind of get some of that value out? And what does
Yeah.
it mean from, we've touched on capital gains quite a bit personally.
Yeah.
What does that all mean for everybody? So let's see. Maybe we could touch on that next time.
Yeah. And I like
Yeah.
you referenced it a little bit, but especially as we talk about adoption, I think this adoption curve is going to be wild over the next 5 to 10 years, and the things that are not even thought about now will be commonplace in 10 years as Bitcoin and other crypto is being adopted. And it will be things like, hey, a treasury will give me 50, if I had $1 million, 50 grand a year. What can Bitcoin do? And if Bitcoin keeps
Right.
going up in value, that's amazing. But if it's sitting in my cold wallet, like that's what it is. I might be like a multi-millionaire, but if I spend it, it's gone. So what are my options and what can I do? I think we'll talk
Right.
about that next time.
Yeah. I think that would be really good for everybody. Anyway.
Awesome, man.
All right.